Hi, welcome to Conversations with Coach Lloyd. Today, we have Toni Carey. Toni is an entrepreneur, writer, advocate, runner, yoga teacher, and creative. In 2009, she co-founded the now global running community, Black Girls Run, an organization focused on empowering African-American women to live a healthy and active lifestyle. Years later, she would complete her 200-hour and 300-hour yoga teacher training at Tranquil Space with a dedicated focus on supporting individuals recovering from burnout and using yoga to heal ancestral trauma. Toni's new venture, Keeping Balanced, is a direct reflection of her desire to support others on their journey back to themselves. Please welcome Toni Carey.
Hi.
How's it going, Toni?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad that I got a chance to talk to you. You know that you took my call and decided that you come on and chit chat with me. So
Thank you for having me. I mean, I feel like this is long overdue because we've had many conversations about all the things that we'll probably talk about. So
that is true. That is true. But, having you here to just share it with everyone else, that's kind of really, really cool. So let me jump in with, let's see, where should I start? There's so much. So let me start with how did you get into running? I'll start with that as a starting point.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep it really short and succinct.
Okay.
It was by accident. I had a really great friend in college who had started running because of her cousin. And I remember, talking to my friend who would become my business partner, Ashley. And I would be like, running? I don't get it. Like, where are you running to? Like, I just thought that was something white people did. I'm so confused. But the more that she would sort of chronicle her journey to me, it was probably a year before I was like, okay, there's something to this. She's changing not only outside, but also on the inside. And so I think I literally bought, 5 or 6 books about running. And then I read about running before I actually started running.
Okay.
And have been hooked ever since.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty cool. So it sounds like that's similar to a way a lot of us got started. You just kind of stumbled into it, know, with like, there's no long history. It's just like, you just stumbled in and all of a sudden now you're doing it. And a simple, stumble leads into, okay, we're a global community that's helping lots of people. Like, that's just, that's just amazing.
Yeah, now, when I started, this was not a part of what happened was not a part of the plan. I was just running because I'd broken up with a guy and I felt like I just needed to do something to occupy my time.
All right. Well, my one big connection with Black Girls Run, I remember, I think it was 2012, 13, something like that. You guys were having, you had this big tour of races that you would do, and one of my siblings was hooked into the community, and she pulled everyone, the whole entire family, into coming down to do one of your races. So
I'm sorry, but that happened a lot.
Yeah. I was like, hey, you know what? I mean, I was trying to get my sibling active and to run, and it, fell on deaf ears. Then she came to me with, the group, like it was brand new. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. Like she discovered something. It was like, great, but it worked. It was right where she needed to be. And, next thing I know, we're all driving down, and flying to do this big race. So, and now good to say they're all hooked.
Was that Charlotte?
Yes.
Charlotte. Yeah. I mean, BGR, Black Girls Run, had that effect on people of just like, you want to tell everybody about it, even like seasoned runners. We're like, okay, been doing this for years, but whatever. But what was great about Charlotte was, in all of our races, people would come out with their families. And I think that that is something that you typically don't see in the African-American community or the Black community, of like whole families doing a physical activity together, especially something like running, where you
Right.
distance running, where you typically don't see us at that time.
At that time. Now that has, since then, the landscape in the industry has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it interesting, and you may too, that as far as it's progressed, people still say, more needs to be done. But when you look at like, hey, where you were in 2009, that race was in 2013, to fast forward, 2021. I mean, when I look at the landscape, there's like tons of new groups that, for lack of a better word, simulate the structure that that you guys put into place. So how does that feel? Like, seeing that what you started is now almost like the blueprint template that everyone seems to be running with. Like, that's just the standard.
I mean, first I have to say, like, even what we created wasn't anything new. I have to give a lot of credit to Fulton Running Partners in Atlanta, which I think is like the oldest running group for Black people. So I stand on the shoulders of other individuals who came before me, who were bringing people together to run. But I think it's amazing to see how people have taken that concept and shaped it and shifted it and molded it into something that is even more relevant and palatable and inclusive than what we were doing. So I think it's been fascinating to see this explosion and people remixing it and doing something different.
Yeah, that's true. So since you're an entrepreneur, what advice would you give an up and coming new person in the endurance space who is like, yes, I've got an idea or whatever it is, some of the lessons you may have learned from that experience for the next group?
I don't think we have enough time because I learned a lot of lessons, but I think, much like running, it's the ability to pace yourself and think about entrepreneurship as a marathon and not a sprint. And there's so much that I would have done different as an entrepreneur to really just take care of myself. I think that if I had to name one thing that I would do different, it would have been taking care of myself while I was taking care of hundreds of thousands of other women. I think that was the biggest mistake for me, because you are excited and there is so much to do, and it's easy when you're excited about something, it's easy to forget to eat or forget to sleep or forget to take your supplements and to rest. And that was I missed that lesson. So that would be my biggest little nugget of knowledge for entrepreneurs. Is just pace yourself and take care of yourself first, because nothing can happen if you're not well. Okay. Now that perfectly leads me to what you're working on now. Yeah.
Because I mean, we've both talked about how we both kind of have a tendency to jump headfirst into things and go all in.
Yes.
And you went from, okay, I'm runner, to I have a little bit of interest in yoga, to now you are a 500-hour certified yoga teacher.
Yep.
So walk me through how we go from, I tell all my clients, hey, as runners, as endurance athletes, yoga is important, but you took it to a whole other level. Like, hey, look, I'm not just gonna do it for myself. I'm gonna get all the way in here.
Yeah. So much of that was on the heels of coming out of Black Girls Run and taking a moment to really assess where I was physically and spiritually, which was like completely just depleted. And I needed something else. What I realized about myself is I really thrive in community and fostering community. And I knew I needed another community. And when I moved here to Washington, D.C., my yoga community was the first community that I found. And yoga had always been, you know, I like dabbled in it and it always provided what I needed. But, you know, as athletes, I think it's important to assess like, what is it that I need right now? And I think I went through a period of time where I was like, running's not really serving me right now. I need something different. And that's kind of where yoga stepped in and helped me recalibrate and come back to balance. And I think now I'm in a phase of my life where the pandemic was hard for me and like a lot of other people. And so I'm starting to like get back into running, but still trying to find that balance between like, okay, running and yoga and like, what does that really look like? What does my body need? And all of that. So it's a constant dance, if you will. But for people like us who are like, yep, you're gonna do this 100%. I think it's become a question that I have to often ask myself is like, what's the real intention here? And what is it that you really, really need right now in this moment?
So were you a yoga or your teacher or instructor before, or just a practitioner?
Just a practitioner. So okay. I started, I think it was the same breakup maybe that got me into running. Same breakup. I was going to a therapist and she was like, hey, you should really try yoga. And I was like, again, one of those things where I was just like, I don't know if it's really for me, but I just kind of like stumbled in and over the years would just like call on it when I needed it. And then I got to a point where it started to change me. I think I did this, the studio I was going to was doing a promotion where you do like 30 days of yoga, you know, for an entire month. And you get like some, I don't know what you got. But I got to the end of that 30 days and I was like, oh my God, I feel so light. I'm so happy and I can't explain it.
Okay.
And it felt very similar to that runner's high, like getting into that flow. And I was like, yes, I have to share this with other people because it's amazing. And I think that's what started like, okay, I want to teach and doing the 200. Like I want to go deeper and just like continue to go deep and learn about myself, learn about my body and watching other people around me suffer in the way that I felt like I was suffering and wanting to be of service to them.
So as a practitioner, right? Mm-hmm. I want to get a little bit more into, hey, they told me to do yoga. I did yoga. I could have done hundreds and hundreds of hours of yoga, sign up for every class. Walk me through that transition of like, no, I don't want to just do hundreds of hours of personal yoga. I've got to now dive in and teach others. What that, you know, just like with the running, it's like you could have just ran for yourself and enjoy it, but you know, now it turns into more.
Yeah, I've always felt it was, I always have felt like it was sort of like a divine purpose for me to support and heal the Black community. And I cannot tell you where that comes from, but I felt that so clearly in Black Girls Run of just like, my community is sick and I feel like there's something that I can do about it. And so it was the same with yoga of like, oh my God, if more Black people had access to this, we could really change not only who we are right now in this moment, but generations to come. And being in a seat of student too, I think is like really important to me. And in the process of running too, right? You're constantly learning about your body. You're coming up against your edge, which is a lot of what yoga is. And in those moments when you're, you know, at the wall or at your edge of a pose and, you know, can barely breathe, you always learn something about yourself in those moments. And so taking those lessons and applying them to everyday life, I think is just can be so impactful and transformative for the Black community. And, you know, when people ask me like, why am I doing this? And it's like liberation. I know there's more to the Black community, the Black culture than what we experienced in 2020, which was I think, sort of this climax of everything that we knew was happening, but the rest of the world, was seeing for the first time. So that was a very long-winded answer. I don't know if I actually answered your question.
That's perfect. So one of the when you say about healing the community, I know one of the yoga classes that you do is what is it? Restorative. What's the word?
Yeah.
Oh, and ancestral healing from ancestral trauma. And I remember my wife and I, we came to one of your classes that was working on that. Can you just kind of paint a picture for me, for everyone, of what that is, and that class, because that was really different. I mean, I've never seen or thought of healing in that way, or for that particular topic. So
there's been so much research around trauma and how trauma is passed down in your genes. So epigenetics is sort of like the technical term for that. And from like a spiritual perspective, the what our ancestors went through, right, is passed down from generation to generation. And so when you think about the traumas that we live in our lives, I'm a personal believer that we're not only carrying our own trauma, we're carrying the trauma of our ancestors who went through some pretty tough stuff. Everyone. And I think what was interesting in that class, that workshop that I did, was my mind was always focused on like Black people. But it was a very diverse class. And we did this exercise where I had everyone share their origin story. So tell me where, as far back as where does your family come from? And there were so many stories of identities lost for survival across, just like every age, race, gender. Like, it was insane to me. And so the idea is doing that work of like really recognizing what is yours, recognizing what might be just historical traumas that are passed down. And then the science of yoga within that is, simple things like breath work or energetic work, where you're actually moving energy through the body, is helpful to sort of, they're not blockages, but they're definitely, I would call them like dense areas of energy that you can then sort of like move out of your body to help you become lighter. And, if you look at the word disease, it's dis-ease. And so there's a theory that all of the diseases that are manifested in your body are really caused by something spiritual or like psychological that's happening. So I've had my own sort of journey with health, and a lot of the reason why I'm exploring that is because I'm exploring it for myself and trying to break up those dense energy pockets so I can run and be healthy. That's all I want.
So is that like, when I do a yoga class like that, I guess all classes aren't equal, because just like running, you have different runs for different things.
Sure.
A tempo run versus a fartlek, or track work. So is that can I think of the yoga in a similar concept where certain types of yoga are for different things? Or
you can, but also at the end of the day, it's all the same, right? And so I remember when I was going through my training, I used to get so consumed with, but if we do this pose or we take people through this practice, what if they don't feel lightness at the end? Or what if they aren't able to tap into like the spiritual realm? And my teacher was like, listen, that's not your job. Like, the person is going to experience whatever they're going to experience on their own. So there's various forms. There's, sort of styles and lineages of yoga that help you to tap into different things. So the style that that sort of speaks more to me is vinyasa, and it's more of a flow. And so it feels like dancing.
Okay.
Where that's like juxtaposed with like Iyengar, that's really prescriptive about like anatomy and alignment. And it's like all yoga, but different. And then I think the other thing to note too is there's actually 8 limbs of yoga. It's not just the physical practice, right? So there's like pranayama, there is meditation, there's so many parts of it. And so I as a practitioner and a teacher kind of get frustrated when people are like, I can't do yoga. Cause I'm like, well, if you're breathing, you're technically doing yoga. Like the asana, the postures part, it's just one sliver and slice to it. And there's so much more. And I feel like whatever you need, you can take from it.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I mean, I've come a long way in my yoga practice.
I think you were like, but I'm not flexible, and I'm like,
oh yeah. You know,
it
right.
doesn't matter.
I'm definitely the home DVD kind of yoga practitioner. You know, my first few yoga experiences, just the teacher gave me too much of their attention to point out my inflexibility. And being like the only guy in the class, it was just like, all right, I was already feeling some kind of way coming to yoga. It's a little different, and now I'm I don't need to be the star attention where I can't touch my toes. So but once I got my own at home DVDs and stuff, or I guess now it's all online, dating myself with the DVDs.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, I like it. And some are better than others, depending on what you do, what you need. A short 20-30 minutes versus 90 minutes. Just it just depends.
Yeah, I would say particularly for runners, though, something that I've been working on is, and I think like when we've run together, you've actually picked up on this. I have a really hard time controlling my breath. And so like breath work has been, sometimes I will actually practice breath work, like deep diaphragmic breathing while I'm running, which is different. And so, even just like playing with the breath while running is a form of breath work. Okay. So like whatever you need, if it's, my husband practices on it online. I try not to get really offended, but he's found someone that he likes and enjoys, and that it's all good. Okay.
So are your lessons all now at a studio, or is it online because of the pandemic? Everybody was kind of at home based. Where are we finding you now with the yoga practice for people coming to it?
Sure. So again, 2020 was really hard. So I had to get to my own place of even feeling like I wanted to teach or could teach. And so they're not scheduled right now, but hopefully soon, restorative classes online. And you can find those at keepingbalance.com. And then hopefully here in the next couple of months, I will be at a studio here in the DC area. We're still trying to figure out what that looks like. But I'm ready to get back into the studio and practice with people and feel that energy. There's just something, it's much like running, with running groups, there's something that's just lost when you're having to do it by yourself or there's a screen in between. And so I'm really looking forward to just being with people again.
Okay. Now, you mentioned with the pandemic being hard, did you find, since running wasn't top of your list per se, you were still finding your niche with the yoga? Were those the only 2 things, or did you find some other crazy hobbies to just kind of?
I did. I did. I did.
What are some of the interesting things that you dived into?
So it's funny because during the pandemic, I think I was experiencing a little bit of depression. It just didn't feel good to be in my body in that way. So I went back to running, which was just I got to get this energy out and moving. Okay. And then in addition to that, like everybody else, I bought a Peloton. And so I think at one point it didn't last long. You were like, most miles. I think I said it, most miles in a month. And I think after week 1, I was like, oh, this is hard.
I apologize for that. I remember being excited about that. And yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
If you all don't know this about Lloyd, super competitive. And I think there was one day, I don't even know. I was like, wow, you're really taking this seriously. Because you just rode like an insane amount of miles.
Just for context, you know, for those wondering, when Toni got a new bike, she challenged me to, you know, let's ride, you know, who could put the most miles in a given time frame. You know, I don't know if it was a week or a month or whatever, because she was super excited about her new bike. And right after we started the competition, I set the tone by going out and I think riding like 100 miles. On the first day of the challenge, I went out and rode 100 miles and sent her a picture of it and said, all right, we're ready.
Good luck.
And after that, I never got another message back about any of the mileage that she was doing or anything like that.
No, I learned my lesson. So Peloton, and then dabbling back in weightlifting, which has always been part of my fitness mix, if you will. But yeah, I think that's it. I was gonna say I skateboarded, but that was 2019.
Okay.
I think I picked up a skateboard.
So are you still doing the strength training and weights?
I am, but it's hard to find that balance with running. It's always been something that I've struggled with because, you know, the recovery part. And my quasi weight trainer, Chris, my husband, is a really big proponent of squats. And so the domes, it gets me every time where I'm like, my legs just won't. I'll already run like this, and it just makes it worse. So
you may have to switch from heavy weights to you know, body weights.
Yeah,
you know, it's I think what it is, like more reps, less weights.
Yeah,
kind of a thing, so that you know you get the motion, some of the strength, but it's not you know, putting you down for the count for, you know, several days, because it just kind of was like, you know, so much.
Yeah. Which it's funny because a lot of weight trainers don't talk about that. I'm going to go in a rant for a second. I feel like a lot of trainers, especially working with runners, don't understand. I don't know. It's just like lift weights. And I was like, but wait, I'm trying to run too. And it just doesn't translate. Sorry.
Yeah.
Felt like I just need to say that.
I think the hard part always comes in with, you know, seasonal, you know, what season are you in? What, you know, for your weight lifting, your weight training, your strength, and, you know, your training cycle for the running to kind of put it in. And, you know, for those who like to lift regularly, I think it comes down to, you know, being modest with the amount of weight that they're doing, so it doesn't impact, you know, their training. But I think for folks like you and I who go all in,
exactly,
that concept just doesn't work well. You know, I think we struggle with a concept like that of, you know, just do a little bit, just do something versus, you know, maxing it out with the squats.
So I have to ask you, I'm going to like turn the tables around and ask you.
The answer is probably no.
How do you manage that? Like, how do you pull yourself back?
Manage probably wouldn't be a good description of the term I would use for anything that I do in my fitness journey. It just happens.
Okay.
So, I mean, for me, it will be 2 or 3 weeks where I'm all in on whatever it is. So if it's weightlifting, I'll do a weightlifting program, whatever it is. I'll lift heavy. I'll plan a full schedule of endurance training and the weights, and probably 2 to 3 weeks, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
And then I take a week or two of recovering from the bad idea, and then come up with a new bad idea.
It's just a vicious cycle that you come to terms with.
I don't consider it vicious. It works. But again, I think like you said, you as an athlete, you have to know who you are and what works for you. I mean, other athletes, I'd probably say maybe your husband, Chris. I know my wife, they're consistent athletes who stick with a plan, and they don't overdo it per se in a training regimen. That probably wouldn't make me a happy athlete in that training cycle. It'll always feel like, so yes, I go hard, then take a break, then go hard again, then take a break. So,
and that's the balance, I guess.
That's the balance. I think you just got to schedule it according to when your race is, and know exactly like, hey, I can't be off my game at this point leading into an event.
Right.
Or else, you just won't be able to race or participate or whatever it is. But that's it. I mean, I think I always laugh when I make up my plan, because it's literally the same exact plan for the last forever.
You just never get through it.
I just never get through it. And it's always the same, like, man, if I ever were to get through this plan right here, I would crush everything. I would, oh my goodness, I'd be on the podium. Crushing it. And, for a select few friends and family who are familiar with the plan, they graciously listen to me tell them the plan every cycle and don't add commentary. They're just like, yeah, that sounds like a really good plan.
And they're like,
right. It's literally written down on the wall, somewhere, so I can see it. And I pretty much just rehash it. Like, yeah, if I do, this strength training, if I do this yoga, this many times, if I swim, bike, run, blah, 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 I'll get all my magic numbers and I'll be great. And, it's just not enough time in the day or recovery time to do all of those things. So, yeah.
One thing that I've really tried to focus on lately is, like, if I can just be consistent in this one thing and like nail that really well, then I can like add on a little bitty tiny baby piece of something else. But I mean, like you would, Chris, we're referring to I always refer to Chris, my husband, who's like a natural athlete and like can get up and run 10 miles and probably be fine. And I try to do that and it just doesn't
work out well. Now you mentioned that, with the yoga and the pandemic, you were trying to get back to running. So, what is your sweet spot? Do you have a distance? I mean, with all the years that you were, doing BGR, what's your race distance, your happy place, if there's such a place?
Yeah. My favorite distance is the half marathon, because I feel like it's just enough of the mental toughness without like totally destroying you in a marathon. I do feel like I have a marathon in me somewhere at some point again, but the half marathon for me is just the right amount of challenge. And but it's been really, again, it's been fun being in a, well, no, it hasn't been fun. It's been fun, but hard. It's hard. I think like maybe this weekend I cried during the run, but being a beginner again is so hard, because like you said, like I had an experience with running that was like, is so different from what it is now. I was 26, 27 when I started running. I'm now 37. So that's like I still feel like I have my 27-year-old body. I don't. Everything is different. So getting back into it has been a lot of mental work as much as it has been physical. And I'm doing like heart rate training too.
Okay.
So that's like even way different of like the pacing yourself, and
Right.
It's the whole vibe.
Now with half marathon being like your go-to, are you or were you one of those athletes who are like, hey, I roll out of bed and I can crank out a half marathon? And you're doing it like every weekend, or is it more like, hey, I've got a half marathon on my schedule, and this fall or this spring, that's my big event?
Yeah, that's me. I watch so many women, and I don't know how they did it, running like half marathons every weekend.
Yeah,
I just knew my body just could not withstand that type of stress. Because also, this is the interesting part, again, kind of like thinking about balance and what your body needs. You have to consider the other stressors in your life too, right? So like running a business full time, and we were traveling so much, and then trying to run a marathon every week, like I just knew that was not my journey. It was not my journey.
Okay. Now you mentioned, hey, it's been 10 years. So your body isn't the same as it was, a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I suggest, or let's touch base on the wonderful sport of multi-sports with triathlon. In that world, when you get older, everyone gets better. Like, it's not a young person game. So any interest, or, what have you dabbled or played with or considered, multi-sport being your new happy place?
I thought I was going to do a triathlon probably 10 years ago. Like, this has been on my mind for a really long time. But it goes back to like, there's no gray. It's like all in or nothing, and trying to balance 3 different sports. And I'm not a great swimmer, which Coach Lloyd is my coach, my swimming coach. And I don't know that I have would you call it a fear of the water?
Not anymore. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, you're being super gracious.
I would say at first, at first it was definitely, it would be considered a fear, but I think you approached it head on, and it is not there. It's more, I would say, more anxious about it versus a fear of it now.
Yes. And there's something wrong with I think my head is too heavy, and my hips won't do what I want them to do. So one day, maybe.
Okay. One day I'll peg everything on a one day,
Yeah. I will tell you, going to triathlons are different from running like distance running events. First of all, everyone's so serious. And I'm like, where's the party? And like, people are like locked in, and watching just like the different body types, like the different ages come through and killing it. I mean, you have a really good friend who, older woman, qualified for Ironman, like putting down some times. And I'm so impressed with that. And to me, that's what it's about. Like, I want to be 70 qualifying for Ironman, or like qualifying for anything at that point would be a blessing.
Yeah, I think we got that in your horizon. I think we add the swim component, just like the yoga and the strength training. It has a season where it's like, hey, I'll take this block of time and I'll deal with my fear, my anxiety, get comfortable with it, and then layer in, all the other things that's out there that, you might want to do.
Yeah. There is one caveat to the swimming that is harder.
Which is?
Can you guess what it is?
I'm not going to guess.
No, you got this. You can guess.
I've learned long ago never to guess.
You're like, nope, not setting me up for that. No. Hair.
Yeah, but things have come a long way. they've got, all kind of hairstyles, protective hairstyles. Now
Yes.
they've got swim caps that actually can, cover
You
your
get all
hair.
of it.
Yeah. I mean, before that wasn't even an option. Now entrepreneurs and everyone else have taken a serious look and invested in figuring that out. So, I mean, just like with running, that it was the same kind of concept of like, well, if I run my hair, but now, I mean, if anyone says that in the running community, everyone probably gives them like, wait.
Yeah, no, that's not really real.
That excuse doesn't really, I mean, you can use it, but I think there'll be enough people giving you a side eye like, wait a minute now, there's tons of pages dedicated to solutions
if
you want to run, and that's not an issue. So I think.
So I have a little bit of time to continue saying that with swimming until it's going to become obsolete and people are going to be like, but.
I think you have to pick your circles of where you say that. I mean, look around the room, check it a little bit, and then you might get away with saying it. But I think in more areas than not, you'll still get that like, yeah, no, that doesn't apply. That doesn't apply at all. But we'll wink and nod if you want to run with it a little while longer. I mean,
right? Okay.
I'll give you I'll let it slide through. The recovery of the pandemic.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Because we're just dealing with a lot right now.
Right. I mean, if we don't want to call it the pandemic, we'll say it's like, hey, my hair. We're not gonna dive into your swim now because there's so much going on. But I would say by the time we're fully out of the pandemic.
Okay.
I think that swim, you got to get there because 2022 would be a great time for you to do some multi-sports. That's the full balance. You mentioned it was overwhelming with the three things, but you'd be surprised having to do all of them. You don't get as overwhelmed as
really
focused on just one.
Really?
Absolutely.
What is that? It's just, I mean, because you're just constantly doing something. So,
well, I think, I clearly am biased, but
yes.
Triathlon, I think, is a lot more fun than just the standalone swim, bike, and run. That, if you were just a swimmer and you just swam, or if you were a runner and you only run, I think that has a tendency to kind of get old.
Yeah.
As a standalone event, because again, there's nowhere for you to go per se. As you get older, it's like, all right, are you really trying to beat your, younger selves by time? Your younger self probably didn't run a 5K, you ran track or, things like that. Whereas with triathlon, it's, brand new metrics. So, you're moving the ball, changing up disciplines, trying to piece them all together. And, as an adult versus a young person, you have more time to commit to it and think it through. And it's just a lot more fun as you mix and match the different distances. So I think that would be a good spot for you. 2022.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. Now, one of the things I want to ask, with all that you've done, all the accomplishments, all of those things, when am I going to get a book? I mean, there's got to be like a book coming or something in the works. I mean, with the lessons you learned from the previous experience, all that you have information wise now from, the new experience, is there a book coming? I mean,
I feel like this is a little bit of a setup because if I say it out loud, then I have to do it.
Let me mark the minute where it's said so I can put it on loop. Now, if it's something that you can't say because you can't say, you can just kind of like blink. I don't want to mess up anything if
No, nothing is in the works right now, but For years, I've been saying that I have a book, probably a few books in me. And um, it's like with anything, right? There's like a fear component to it. And like everything that we do, again, like whether it's running, it's yoga, like it's that edge. Like the book is my edge and I'm staring at it. And it's like, all right, this year, next year, let me go and do it. So yes, I am gonna at some point write a book because I do feel like I learned so much about entrepreneurship, about Black women and community. There's just like so much to tell. So yes, soon, hopefully.
All right. I mean, I think it should be just like the yoga where, you know, you just jump
Just do it.
You just jump in head first and not worry about like anything else. You know, I mean, you go to the edge and you just jump in like, you know, the other things that you've jumped head first in to just, you know, make it work.
Yeah. I'm spending way too much time like on the ledge, just like looking over. You know, the longer you look at it, the scarier it gets. So I just need to.
Well, I think you need to take a step back and then
run
and jump. Right. I think what happens is you think you know too much about it, so that's what's causing the interpretation. With the running, you're like, I don't know anything about running, so let me go head first into the unknown, and you weren't intimidated by all that was there, even though anyone else looking would be like, man, you don't know what you're about to get into. With the yoga, it seems like you just kind of jumped into that. Like, I like it for me, so now let me figure it out for everyone else. But you're overthinking. You might be overthinking the book part versus just like, oh, a book. Let me just put some words on a page and see what happens.
Lloyd, this is actually really great advice for anyone who is thinking about starting something or doing something. Don't think about it. Just do it. Thinking about triathlon, just do it. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Go buy a bike. Go buy some shoes. It's fine.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, just go ahead. And, don't think too hard about it. I think what they say, think long and wrong is what they used to say.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm gonna hold you to it. I'm gonna hold you. I won't put any pressure, but
I know you will. I know you will. And I appreciate you for that.
Well, just a little bit, not too much on a regular basis, just a periodic follow-up, so.
It always comes up in the most random times. Like we're not talking about anything of substance. Like, how about that book? And it's like, wait, we were just joking about, I don't know.
I mean, but I have to admit I'm selfish because I would like to read the book.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I get some, stories and some everything, but I would still like to, read through the book. So it's like, hey, when you gonna put it down so I can read it?
I'm going to write it.
All right.
So you can read it.
Perfect. So just a couple more questions before I start to let you go. Okay. I know with 2020, everything was kind of like, what it was. And I know a lot of athletes were signed up for events, races, and stuff like that. Did you have things that you were signed up for in 2020 that just got rolled into 2021? Or, you really didn't even have anything on the radar?
No, it really was just like a fresh start of like it felt like everyone was getting an opportunity to reset. And like the playing field that actually doesn't exist, everything was just like, all right. Because I think running too had gotten to this weird point, like watching it, the trajectory of the run, like running events grow from like 2019 to where it was in 2019. It started to feel less fun. You go to these events and it's such a big production that it's almost stressful. So I had even kind of started shifting, like even if I was going to run an event, I was looking for like smaller events, like mom and pop 5K that's happening on a Sunday, and you might get a t-shirt, you might not, you know. But no, I didn't have anything planned for 2020. And so it really was just an opportunity to think about, like, okay, every playing field is level, you can reset. What do you want to do? So I am shooting for, if all goes according to plan,
good, next
Richmond marathon, half marathon, Richmond half marathon.
Okay.
Half marathon, not marathon.
I was gonna have a lot of questions there.
Richmond half marathon.
Richmond half marathon
in November.
In November. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the one that's on your calendar.
That is the one that is on my calendar.
Okay.
And if I can find, you know, some 5K, 10Ks to throw into the mix as part of training, I'll do that. But again, it was taking a lot of risk, because I actually do think I thought about it. I was thinking about a marathon this year.
Yeah.
And I feel everybody was like, don't do that. You don't want to do that. And I was like, yeah, y'all are right. Let me just do this half marathon and be okay.
Okay. So. Okay. Good call.
Yes.
So a half marathon. Now, is that going to be is that like your gateway to get back into it, or is that like closing the chapter? You know,
no. It's a gateway. Like, let me see how I feel doing a half. If I still enjoy it, like, is it still fun for me?
Okay.
And then kind of just like see what happens after that. I might, you know, finish that race and be like, running service purpose. Let me just crank out some miles through the week, but racing is not really for me. So I'm trying not to get my expectations up around time, anything like that. Like, just feel good. And really, it's just a blessing. Honestly, it's a blessing to be able to run, you know, to have stayed healthy all 2020 and to be able to run. So just enjoy it.
So it's not like, hey, my first time out, I've got to beat my whatever time from this race or that race. It's just,
I've got like some times again from 10 years ago that like aren't applicable. So it's a constant internal dialogue that I'm having of, it's fine, you're fine.
Okay.
No expectations. You're also getting older. It's cool.
Okay. So I take it that you're following your training plans from 10 years ago.
I am following my training plan from 10 years ago. I wish I had the book. There's this great book one of the books that I read. It's the Non-Runner's Guide to Running a Marathon. And that book is worn, like pages falling out, and I'm using that training plan. And I hope I can get through it.
Okay. So, I mean, as long as you have a plan, you know, then you can do apples to apples with, hey, It worked for me 10 years ago. It worked for me now. Let me see how my numbers compare, what my body's going to do or won't do, that kind of a thing. So, that's exciting. That's very, very exciting. I'm hoping that after this one, it will then say, all right, you want to take the show on the road, and now you've got a full half marathon calendar for 2022, spring and fall. Right. Because
that's actually not, I could see that happening.
Yeah. Well, because you said you were never the, every weekend half marathon person. So, early season, late season kind of a thing might be more in the realm of a nice lifestyle balance. This works for you. Not too overwhelming. But
that's a great plan. Yeah. Let's do it. It's done. I'm going to find a spring and a fall race.
Let's get you through November.
See what just happened? See, I
co-sign on all of those ideas, but at the same time, we got to get you to your happy place where you said, you like it and you want to do it again.
You're right. That's why you need great friends around you, because
You know?
you just hype me up, and then you were like, wait, hold on, wait.
Yeah, I don't want you registering for anything in March and April before you even finish the November one. Then looking to defer or looking for a refund.
Right. Who wants to run this race? I got an entry. Yeah.
Right. You going on one of the platforms like, hey, I've got a bib. You can take my bib. There's a transfer process. Just say you're Toni when you go to packet pickup.
I mean, I've lost so much money. I've registered for Chicago Marathon. I don't even know how many times, which is ridiculous because it's hard to get in.
Yes.
And so yeah, everyone pace yourself.
I know that all too well. I'm currently in a situation where someone's getting ready for Chicago Marathon due to your
because I hype them up. And I'm not even running. I'm sorry.
That's an offline conversation. There can be no documentation of that one. We'll pick that up offline.
Oh my gosh. This is what I love about athletes and runners, and I think runners and triathletes in particular. Like, there's a little bit of psychosis.
Yeah, you don't need much. Someone points you in the right direction, you're all in. Like, oh yeah, I'm good. Sign me up. Right.
So it's imperative to have a reasonable person in the room. Like, terrible idea. Don't do that.
Yeah, and that's sometimes it's harder to find than you may think.
Yeah, it is.
A voice of reason that you're gonna listen to.
Right.
That you're gonna listen to. They're out there, but sometimes as athletes, we sometimes don't listen to them.
Yep, 100%, 100%.
Oh wow. Well, Toni, I appreciate you. Chit chat with me. I know that if folks are looking for your upcoming programs with yoga, yes, they can find you on keepingbalanced.com. And then they're going to be able to figure out, when you do your online programs and things like that. If they're in the DC, DMV area, this is where they'll be able to find out about your in-person classes and workshops and stuff like that, right?
That's absolutely right. And I would say if you have ever thought about doing yoga or practicing yoga, like, give it a try, give it a fair shot. If you don't like it the first couple of times, find a new teacher, because as you said, Lloyd, like, sometimes it's a teacher you're just not jiving with. Keep going back at it, because it just is such a great compliment to all the endurance stuff that you do.
Well, thank you. All right, Toni, it's been a pleasure, and I'll be in touch.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button.